Hello and welcome to Get a Clue Dad, a Tweens Mysteries podcast. I'm MJ.
And I'm the dad, Aiden.
And today we have a guest.
We do. Do you want to introduce them?
Yes, I do. Our guest today is the brilliant, the amazing, my mom.
Hello. I wanted to join in today because the book that you guys were reading, I was really interested in because I really like fairy tales.
So why don't we begin by just saying what that book is?
I gladly will. The book that we have read and we're going to be talking about today is the Beanstalk Murders.
And who is the Beanstalk Murder by?
P.G. Bell.
Now, this was actually a listener suggestion.
Yes.
So a friend of the podcast, JJ, who blogs at The Invisible Event, he suggested this would be a book that you might enjoy. And I think he thought that you might enjoy it because of the fairy tale connection. Of course, that's what's pulled Mom in as well.
Yeah.
So would you like to read the blurb for the book?
Anwen said a young meadow witch apprentice lives in a rural village that hasn't seen giants since the giant beanstalk war. So it's quite a surprise when one drops from the sky and squishes the village flat. It's an even bigger surprise when Anwen discovers he was dead before he hit the ground. This is murder! The only solution is for Anwen and her arch nemesis, Karis, who's the best at high magic and won't let anyone forget it, to send a plea for help to the giant's village using a magic beanstalk.
But the beanstalk backfires, shooting the two rivals into the giant's kingdom before crumbling to dust. There they make a terrible discovery. The murdered giant was none other than the king, and the giants have no magic of their own to send the girls home. Trapped in the royal palace and surrounded by intrigue, Anwen decides to use her meadow witch skills to unmask the killer, despite Karis's doubt in her.
With the help of a few new friends and her reluctant rival, can Anwen figure out who murdered the king before the killer strikes again?
So, the Beanstalk Murder. Obviously, as you suggested, is a fairy tale set story. What is it that makes fairy tales so enjoyable to read?
I think it's because they have themes that are universally relatable to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are something that's timeless. And I think we associate it with our childhood.
And you mentioned about how they're universally relatable. Of course, a lot of fairy tales occur in different cultures all around the world. You get the same stories told in Europe as you get told in Asia, but they might have slightly different elements to them.
Like Little Birdface or Cinderella.
Exactly. And of course, we all have favorite fairy tales from our youth. Why don't you kick us off, Mom, with your favorite fairy tale from when you were growing up?
For me, it was always Beauty and the Beast. And I think it's a combination of things. Like there's some films that are fairly iconic that I think spurred my love of that story. But I think it's also just having read it as a child and it really sticking out to me. The Enchanted Castle, the roses, and also Belle just being kind of a very interesting and relatable character. I mean, of course, the Disney film changes her and makes her into a bookworm, which is, of course, all us little girlies who love to read can relate to her.
Absolutely. So, MJ, what is your favorite fairy tale?
Not from my youth, because I'm still in my youth. I like to point that out.
Okay.
My favorite fairy tale has to be Rapunzel because of the paintings, the chameleon, and her smacking a guy with a pen, all that normal day stuff.
So you're referring to the Disney film
Yes.
version Tangled. Now, Disney is a huge kind of influence on the way that you've obviously grown up knowing and loving fairy tales, but it's quite different from the original fairy tale, isn't it? Do you enjoy the Disneyfication of fairy tales, the changes that get made to make those films so colorful?
I kind of like the original darker ones.
You like the original
I
dark?
don't like dark.
You don't like
That's
dark?
understandable.
No horror movies for me. I'll just stick to my other movies.
Yeah. It's nice in Disney that's always reassuring. There's always going to be like a happy ending, but a lot of the old fairy tales, there wasn't always a happy ending to the story.
That's exactly
Like
right.
in the original one, he never gets unblinded.
Yeah, they fall into a thing of thorns and they become blind.
Oh, okay. Very cool. And these fairy tales do change over time. I think one of the important things to remember is that fairy tales, for the most part, weren't written. They were collected.
Well, the stories were passed on and then they were altered and changed. And that's one of the things that's very interesting about them. And Grimm's brothers, they went and they were trying to collect all those stories.
They were writing to try and record them for posterity,
Exactly.
whereas maybe Perrault was writing more to entertain the French court.
Mhm.
And then we have another major writer of fairy
Hans
tales,
Christian Andersen.
Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah.
And Hans Christian Andersen wrote my favorite fairy tale when I was little, which was The Emperor's New Clothes. I enjoyed that because of the punchline of the
Your
little.
favorite one is A King His Nudie?
Yes, my favorite one as a child
As a child.
was that one.
As a child.
As a
Emperor's
child.
That's a good punchline.
I think now that I'm older, my favorite ones are from the Brothers Grimm. I do appreciate more the darkness, but as a kid, they were too scary for me.
Yeah.
So today's book is also based on a fairy tale.
This one is built off of Jack and the Beanstalk.
So Jack and the Beanstalk isn't by any of the people that you've mentioned.
No.
Jack and the Beanstalk is a very old fairy tale. The Jack stories go back to about the 15th century.
Wow,
when
that's old.
It is quite old, and the Jack character exists before the Beanstalk. So the first Jack stories that are written down are about him smarting his evil stepmother, and then about a century later we get giants added into the mix. So
But I thought his mother was his real mother.
it's just a character type, like Robin Hood. So Robin Hood appears in lots of folk tales, but the stories that people told with that trickster character were different. They used him in different ways, and the same thing is true of Jack. Jack is kind of a cheeky boy character, but he features in lots of different story types. So, Jack and the Beanstalk, story about a young boy trades his cow for magic beans. The bean is planted in the ground, shoots up, creates a beanstalk. He goes up into the land of giants.
He steals stuff.
He steals a golden egg, he steals a magical harp, and of course, the giant chases him down the beanstalk and is either killed or dies.
I thought he fell off the beanstalk.
So yeah, it differs. The character's end changes. Some of the versions are highly moral based, others are more entertaining, and you can use him in a variety of different ways. Now, the Beanstalk Murder is using a classic fairy tale. Why do you think that the writer is playing with a fairy tale?
Because I guess in fairy tales, there's so many like open ends, like question marks, if you think about them. Like what happens to the giant's body, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. What does that mean for anyone who's picking up this book?
It means that they probably know the background of it.
So you're playing with familiar elements and you can kind of put your own spin on it. Now, the Beanstalk Murder is an example of what we call a crossover mystery. This is a mystery where it's not just a mystery novel, it's also a fairy tale or fantasy story. And that means that you're blending the elements of different genres, fantasy and detective, and you're having to kind of tell a story that hits what people expect from both of them. Now, MJ, one of the things we've talked about in the past is that detective stories often are what are called fair play. Would you like to explain to your mom what a fair play mystery is?
A fair play mystery is when you have all the clues and you can easily suss out who the murderer is.
And Mom, what are some of the elements that you find in fantasy or fairy tale stories that you would expect to find?
The thing that draws me into fantasy stories is I like the world building. It has a mythology behind it and a way that the magic works within the context of the story. I always find that interesting.
Okay, so we have two very different genres. Now, there is a bit of a challenge when you're combining these two genres. What do you think the challenge would be with making a fair play mystery that involves magic?
The thing with magic is you could just go ping and make something happen. So I guess in a certain circumstance, it would make, it difficult to do the mechanisms of a mystery within that context.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if anything is possible, then you get the problem that how can I guess what could or couldn't have happened? It's a bit like, I know, MJ, you play volleyball. So imagine you're playing volleyball and you can't see where the net is and you can't see where the lines are and the ball's coming at you. What's the way you normally know whether you're going to hit it?
With the lines and the boundary.
Right, because you know there are rules, there are guidelines that you're working within. It would change the way you play, wouldn't it? You would
Yes.
always have to go for the ball because it might be inside the line. You can't tell. Well, in a mystery, if anything is possible, you can't rule things out. Let's say you know there's a locked door. What if you're in a world where people can walk through walls? Suddenly, that locked room isn't a locked room anymore.
Exactly.
So we have a magical setting.
Mhm.
What is the mechanism that the author P.G. Bell uses to make sure that we do not have a magical resolution to this story?
Okay, there's two separate worlds. In one world, magic does not exist, and the other one it does.
So let's talk about our first of the two worlds. This is the kind of real life fairy tale world where our main characters live, Anwin and Keres. What are their personalities like? Let's start with Anwen. What is Anwen like?
Anwin is a very snarky person. She's mostly snarky towards Karis.
And how does her snarkiness towards Keres show itself right at the start of the book? She pulls a prank. Do you remember what it is?
It is probably the best prank that she pulls in this thing.
What does she get?
Poop.
Poop? Your mom is right.
She charms a bird into juicing on top of Karis's head.
Yes, she does get the bird to drop a poop onto
Juice.
to drop a
We're
juice.
civilized people here, guys.
It gets them. It gets the bird. She does get the bird to defecate onto her rival Keres.
How am I the only one here that's not laughing?
So, why is she resentful of Keres?
Because she didn't get into the high school of magic.
Right. So there are two different types of magic in this world, aren't there?
Metal magic, or as Karis might say, ditch magic.
Right.
Because she's kind of like the stereotypical mean girl.
Yes.
Yeah. And high magic, which usually only rich people do.
So, yeah, it's kind of a common magic that is kind of helping, healing, very practical. So things like being able to talk to animals, right?
Yeah.
And then high magic is illusion,
Like glamour magic,
glamour magic.
as Karis refers to it, not deucing magic.
So of these two types of magic, which one would you rather be able to do?
High magic, because I don't really want to talk to my pets because I'm worried what they're going to say.
Oh dear.
I would absolutely love to do the meadow magic
Right.
because I think it'd be really cool to talk to all the animals.
I worry that if you could understand animals, they just talk at you all the time and you wouldn't be able to kind of shut them off.
Yeah.
But it would be quite nice to be able to tell them what you want them to do. However, the animals that we have, cats, I think even if you could talk to them, they wouldn't do what you want anyway.
No, they'd just be like, oh my gosh, I hate you. Go away.
There's a bit in the book I really appreciated where they say that all cats believe they are descended from gods and that then they must be worshipped. And having two cats, I 100% agree with this.
So we've often had situations where we have friends investigating in the stories that we've read. This is a little bit different, though. We have rivals investigating. So how does that feel different?
It feels like you can tell that they absolutely hate each other. It makes it so they both want to be doing the investigation by themselves.
Well, I think actually one of them really is a reluctant detective. Like
Right.
the other one is very interested and wants to know what's going on, and the other one is very much not interested at all and just wants to go home.
What I meant by that is I meant one of them, one of them wants to just be chilling in their little casa.
So what you're referring to is that when they go up into the giant realm, they're treated as ambassadors.
Yes.
And they're put into a little dollhouse, which for them is actually a full-sized house.
Yes.
And they're told to just sit and relax until they can be sent home. But Anwen is curious. Anwen investigates. Anwen wants to know what happened. Keris has a very different attitude, like you referred to.
Yeah.
She just wants to sit and wait. And yet, when she sees Anwen investigating, she can't help herself, can she? She wants to get involved.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the bickering that the two do throughout the book?
I think it's well written because I think that is how 11 to 13-year-old girls are with each other. I mean, there's a lot of petty rivalries and stuff. Would you agree?
I cannot speak. I can't do that to my age group. I can't betray them.
They kind of fall out over things. And there's also jealousy.
There is jealousy.
There's always a sense that, wanting what another person has.
Mhm.
Right. And I think in Anwen's case, she's jealous of her. But I don't think she always realizes that it goes both ways.
And there are things that Keris is jealous of as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do on this show is we have a section which is a spoiler section where we're going to go into more detail about what has happened. And In that section, we will touch a little bit on exactly the reasons that you're referring to. So let's talk a little bit about our murder victim.
The victim is the King Tybalt.
And he is the king of the giants.
Yeah.
So the first thing that our investigators have to find when they go up into the giant realm is who is the person that has been murdered. And they have quite a clever way of doing this.
And when it's drawn a sketch of him,
Mhm.
Karis has the ability to enlarge the painting or drawing that Anwin has done.
So they can see who the victim is. And everyone immediately recognizes him because he's
Yeah.
so well known.
Exactly.
He's like the Taylor Swift of the giants.
Exactly.
Well, that's true because as we're going to discover, he is regarded as a very accomplished musician. So our characters have to go up into the giant world. They use a beanstalk and
They get stuck.
they've shown the giants who the victim is. They've alerted them to the fact that someone has been murdered.
And it goes crumbling down.
So our characters are stranded up there. They are not supposed to be investigating. They do, like we've discussed.
Like Daisy and Hazel. Or the Fun Jungle series. Or Noah Holmes.
So in addition to not being supposed to investigate the mystery, what are some of the other challenges that our young detectives are going to face that are kind of unique to this book?
They're tiny. They're like itty bitty. To them, we're ants. And they're giants.
Well, the giants don't think of themselves as giant, do they?
They think of them as normal size.
They think that the people from down below are just little.
Yeah.
Quite a clever little
I
conceit.
actually laughed when I read that part.
It makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Because you wouldn't think that you're actually pretty big. You'd think, oh my gosh, they're so tiny. They're like little ants.
So, what are the challenges that come with being tiny in a world that's built for giants?
You could get squished.
Or eaten.
You could get eaten, that's right. Maybe a little animal that wouldn't be a threat to you, like a spider, is suddenly huge in this world.
Or a cat.
Or a cat. And so, if you want to walk from one side of a room to another, what do you think that means for Anwin and Keris?
It's going to take like 5 days.
And the book addresses that in clever ways. Love that it uses the girls' abilities at points. Their whole way of communication is through high magic. Keris is able to amplify voices. She's able to blow up a picture and make it bigger for everyone to see. And then what can Anwin do?
She can talk to animals.
And so how does she use that ability to enable her to get through the castle?
She asked for help from the animals, and we're not going to say which animals because, of course, it is a secret until our spoiler alert.
And there's one other way, I guess, that being tiny helps their investigation.
They can climb up onto people without being noticed.
So, there is another way that they're able to get involved. They get some help, don't they?
Yeah.
So there are some giants that want to be helpful to our main characters. There are some who are very interested in the world of what they regard as the little people. There are others who have no interest at all and just want them gone as quickly as possible.
They're like, see ya when I want to be ya, bye.
So what I want to ask you is, did you have a favorite helper in the story?
My favorite was probably the page boy, Tonino.
What makes him such an appealing character?
He's funny.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's funny. It's my favorite character, though.
Okay. Well, I think that favorite character might be your mom's favorite helper. So who is your favorite helper?
I like the pigeon.
The pigeon.
I really like the pigeon because the pigeon has appreciation for something I love a lot, art.
Okay. And why does the pigeon love art so much?
Because it wants to teach art.
It wants to teach art. It's a frustrated would-be art
Mhm.
instructor.
And he also thinks that it's really sad that there is a lack of pigeons in the artwork in the palace.
So that character's name, I believe, is Archimbolo. And
We're just going to call him Pigeon.
well, we'll just call him the pigeon art critic. So apparently, pigeons have been able to distinguish between good art and bad art. There was a scientific study by a Japanese researcher that was able to sort
Really?
elementary school children's artwork into good and bad based on it just recognized elements. So they can be taught that So I wondered if Peachy Bell had heard of that story and maybe was
Do they have a
using it, or if it was
documentary?
just completely from their imagination.
Do they have a documentary? Because I actually want to see that.
I'm quite curious to see it as
We
well.
might have to search it up on YouTube after this.
He is a super charming, super funny character.
He is. And he ends up being very important in the story.
That's the character that stood out the most to me as I was reading.
So it looks like we all agree.
So before we get to the spoiler alert, what we typically do is for people who want to bow out at this point and make a decision, I want to just talk about what we thought about the book and whether we enjoyed it, things that kind of spoke to us. So, MJ, why don't you get us started? Did you like this book?
Yes. See the pigeon?
So you liked its colorful characters. What else did you like about it?
I also liked the depth because there is all of us guessed the murderer.
Yep, we'll come on to that a little bit later, but you're right. We did all guess.
But we all didn't guess one element, which I thought was very clever.
Well, we will dig into that in the second part.
Well, for me, like in fantasy stories, I think the thing I like the most is world building. And for me, I thought the world was interesting. I liked the two main characters a lot. I thought that they were really charming. And I liked their arc, their growth in the story. And I also thought the solution was clever.
It is definitely a rivals to friends kind of storyline, which is very entertaining.
That's more like in fantasy books.
Well, I think that you have characters being pulled together by a common need and being trapped together and kind of coming to understand each other better.
And people not always being what they seem to be at first
Mhm.
is always something I find appealing. Like when a character surprises you or does something unexpected.
Like,
That is something that I always enjoy.
like the famous quote, "Don't judge a book by its cover," probably said by everyone in this world.
People are complicated. I think that's really what the idea behind that is that they have different layers to them. And you can have preconceptions about them that can change over time as you get to know someone.
I think that the world building is definitely one of the areas that this is a real triumph.
Uh,
I really enjoyed how the two worlds were distinguished from each other.
Mhm.
I think that both worlds have colorful, interesting characters, although the giant world was more appealing of the two. To me, just because I enjoyed like the court politics,
Yeah.
and I think those characters are drawn very effectively. Each of the characters feels like they've been developed and feel like they are dimensional and interesting to the point where you had a number of characters that we could believe could be potential killers.
It makes it seem like there are more people than there actually is.
Exactly. Exactly. And the world is bigger because we're not just trapped inside the castle. The characters leave the castle in a memorable sequence to go find out information
With the pigeon!
with the pigeon. Exactly. And then there is a sequence that I think works really well. Like we talked how in the Fun Jungle books, in both of the first two, there's a sequence in which the main character is kind of threatened by an animal. And here, the main characters are definitely threatened by an animal at one point. So I thought that there is a really fun use of size. It kind of reminds me of those old Honey, I Shrunk the Kids films, in that it takes something that's kind of mundane and makes it scary and fun and interesting.
Do you remember a book called The Indian in the Cupboard?
Yes.
That's what it kind of reminded me of. Like, this says there's peril to do with the size.
Hmm.
And I thought that was kind of fun.
So I definitely would love to read the second book in the series, even though sadly it features different characters from what I understand. But I definitely would like to go on and read that. How about you guys?
Yes, I would like to read the next book.
I really, 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 really would. So I think that about sums up our non-spoiler section. Do you know what time it is, Dad?
What time is it, MJ?
The spoiler alert! Dun, 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 dun.
Okay,
You gotta add a little bit extra because there's another person here.
that's right. Let's begin by talking about the different suspects that appear to be involved in the story. Who is our first potential suspect that you want to talk about?
Our first suspect is the Chamberlain.
So the Chamberlain is snooty. He doesn't want the little girls there. I think that kind of suggests that maybe he might have something to hide. He is kind of mysterious as well. What are some of the things that he does that are a little odd?
He sneaks off.
I think one of the things that makes you suspect that character is because he has such a clear motivation.
So what would his motive be?
He would be after the princess, he would be next in line for throne.
He'd be like a regent, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So that would be one reason. And there's another thing about him. How does he feel about King Tybalt?
He hates him because he's snobby, he's rude, and he is kind of obnoxious.
He's lazy as well.
He's
Yeah.
just like, he gets the princess to do all the work.
She's pretty much running the show.
So that brings us on to Princess Flavia. Why is she a suspect? What is her possible motive?
Well, later on, we find out they're twins,
Mm-hmm.
and she has pretty much almost as much right to the throne as him.
Yes, so there wasn't one born first. They were
Yeah.
C-section babies. So they came out at the same time. So it was up to the old king to decide who was going to succeed him. And he picked based on a really shallow reason, didn't he?
Because he's more popular.
He's more popular. And why is he so popular?
Because he's gotten a reputation for being a really talented musician.
So Princess Flavia is frustrated because she's doing all of the work. She doesn't get the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be her reason for wanting to kill her brother. Is there anyone else that we might think about?
We got Cato, the captain of the guard.
And why do you think he might be a potential killer?
Well, I think later on we get some backstory with him,
Mm-hmm.
but he isn't a character I seriously ever considered, honestly.
No. I think the only thing is that he's kind of restricting the girls, and I think that comes off as potentially shutting them down when they have things to offer. And then I think that your character that you loved so much, the page, he also looks a little sus at points, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. But I never actually considered him because I'd be like, he knows that they're in the middle of doing like the mystery, like finding out who it is. He could easily just stop them, but he helps them.
That's what I was thinking as well, is that he's such a helper to them that it seems like if he was the murderer, then why was he assisting them?
I think those are some good points. We do have another person, and we'll come to them at the end when we talk about the actual killer. But those are the characters that I think we're encouraged to think about. Okay. There is another aspect to it. We never meet King Theobald. He's already dead at the beginning of
Yeah.
the story. But there is a bit of a mystery associated with him. He has an ability that he appears to have acquired from nowhere.
Overnight.
So how has he become an amazing musician?
So there's such thing in their world that it's like a guitar that has a mini guitar in the smaller world that someone else could play who's actually good at guitar that could make it that he's actually really good.
Right, so it can make him seem like he can perform when he can't. Does this remind you of something that's from the original fairy tales?
For me, when it first was like really early on in the story when it was presented, the way that the guitar was described, where having a face and being golden, reminded me of the golden harp from the original fairy tale. So I instantly thought maybe there's something strange about this. Maybe there's something magical.
Right.
Me
Uh,
and Mom actually thought it played itself.
Yeah, we did. Because in the original fairy tale, that's what the harp does.
So the question about whether it can play itself is very important to this story because it sets up a piece of major misdirection, which is about the time that the murder has taken place. So, what is the trick here?
The ability of the guitar changes everything because they believe that right after the concert, once the whole thing's over, that's when he was murdered.
Right. So, the concert has two parts, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
begins out on the balcony where he's playing in front of everyone. And then what happens?
It starts to get cold, so he goes into his room to play.
So, he's still playing, they're still hearing the music behind the locked door and the curtains. And that makes them think that the murder takes place after the music stops, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what does that mean if the instrument can play itself?
He was murdered. He was hidden somewhere. And the person who was faking it just left the guitar playing.
Right. So he could have been murdered much, much earlier, and it messes up the timeline.
Yeah.
This is actually a trick you find in quite a few Golden Age mysteries, where you have a character who's locked themselves in a space and maybe they're typing on a typewriter or they're playing music on the piano, and everyone goes, well, they were in that space the entire time. They couldn't have done the murder. And of course, maybe they have a record of the piece of music being played, and it completely confuses everything. So it's quite a well-worn trick, but it works really well here. I think it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess that he was murdered before the end of the concert. I remember telling you guys that.
You did. I think all three of us thought that the instrument could play itself and could sing,
Yeah.
and that was throwing everything off. We did guess that bit. Of course, the reality is a little bit different. So let's talk about what he is actually doing. You mentioned that there are two twin guitars. So we have a guitar in the giant world, but who has the other guitar?
Stovepike.
So we are now down in the world of Old Stump, where Anwin and Keris are actually from. Stillpike is a bard, a musician, who says that he was alive back during the Giant Wars, even though that was a really long time ago. It seems a little impossible.
He's kind of pompous.
He's kind of pompous. He wants to be loved. He feels unappreciated. What has the Giant King done to enable him to benefit from Stillpike's ability?
So the Giant King has made a deal that if you play this, the first time that we get to actually bring you up into this world, you'll get a beautiful dollhouse. Kind of what Anwin and Karis are getting.
Right, so he'll be treated like royalty. He'll live a fancy life. He'll be adored. Does the king follow through on this?
No,
No, he doesn't. And why does that upset Stillpike?
because he's doing all this work
Hmm.
and he isn't getting anything out from it.
That's true. Now, there's someone else, though, who is resenting the king.
Marcus was in a band with Kato and they didn't get into a music school.
And so they feel a little mad, don't they?
Yeah. Well, Marcus feels mad because he believes that he's a much better music player than King Tybalt.
And also, the maestro was accusing the king of being a faker and fraud.
So actually, you're right. We did forget a possible suspect when we were talking earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So there's a character
Yeah.
called the Maestro. The Maestro is supposed to be a music expert, but he is actually the head of a music department, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's in disguise. He's wearing like a fake beard. So he's supposed to be coming to check up on the king to support him, but he's actually there to try and find out his secrets, isn't he?
I guessed that the professor was the maestro.
You thought they were the same person?
The professor and the maestro are both gone missing around the same time.
That's right. So that is a little suspicious, isn't it? The maestro refuses to come out of his room. When they do go and investigate inside his room, what do they find?
They find a burnt letter and they start to think, what if the princess didn't actually murder him? What if she hired someone to murder him?
Hmm. So he might be suspicious that way because you don't get all of the message. But there's something about the bedroom, though. So he's been eating food,
Yeah.
but what hasn't he been doing?
Sleeping in the bed.
Sleeping in the bed, right? And of the food, there's something else that's a little sus. On his plate, what is always left?
Grapes.
And who do we know will not eat grapes?
The page boy.
So that's our little clue that the page boy has been impersonating the maestro inside the room to kind of suggest that he's there. And that's our little piece of misdirection. We think that the maestro might be there and getting involved, and he isn't really in existence.
Hmm.
It's the same person as the professor. Okay. So you mentioned Marcus. Marcus is angry at the king. And he is our character who is going to murder the king. Sneaking inside the bedroom, waits for him to come off the balcony, and then he conducts his murder. But he needs the appearance that the king is still alive. So he is going to work with Stillpike, isn't he?
Hmm.
What does he promise Stillpike?
The same thing that the king promised him.
He promises he's actually going to follow through, right?
Yeah.
So for us, I think we all guessed that Marcus had a really good motive. He had an opportunity, and he was doing that thing that you often find in mystery novels, that you have a character who you learn enough about to understand them and to understand their opportunity, but they're kind of kept back from you a little bit. They appear to be nice, they appear to be friendly, but not too friendly. And so he's in that position where you think he's a possible murderer. The thing that caught me off guard, and then you've said caught both of you off guard as well, is the involvement as Still Pike. This is the bit I had to go back and reread just to make sure I understood not his involvement, because I think that it's clear how the mechanics of the two guitars work, that you can talk through them, that the voices on one side echo on the other side.
Mm.
But I didn't clock at first how he was suddenly up in the giant world. How did he get there?
When they came down to pick up the king, he Marcus must have brought him up.
So he was tucked inside the pocket, wasn't he?
Yes, he
Yeah.
was. He hid inside of there.
He hid his, and that's using the big and little thing again, very cleverly. So he is going up into the giant world. He is there in the dollhouse, and he has a confrontation with the characters where they're able to kind of find out his involvement. So for me, that was the best surprise in the book.
For me, it was a surprise as well.
I guessed there had to be something going down in the small world, but I didn't guess it was still Pike. I guessed that he was working with someone, I just didn't know who, and I thought it was another giant.
So that is our mystery element. I referenced earlier that there are some sequences that are really exciting. I love how they're able to use the mice to get around the castle.
Yeah.
I think that was a really clever and creative solution to the problem of how you get from one end of the building to another. Were there any favorite moments that you regard as a little spoilery that you'd like to throw out there?
Uh, I loved when he quotes, "If it wasn't for those two stupid girls and that one stupid pigeon, then you never would have caught me."
It was very Scooby-Doo.
It is a very Scooby-Doo moment, isn't it?
For me, it was, the moment where she offers the reward, and then she says, "Could you paint a pigeon in some of the portraits in the castle?" I thought that was kind of charming, and, in general, just the animals. The animals were probably my favorite. But I also have another favorite moment when Karis and Anwen finally kind of come to an accord and see each other's perspective and understand each other. I thought that was a really nice moment because we learned that there's more to both of them.
This is a really good point. You mentioned earlier, things aren't always what they appear. How does Keres appear?
Karis appears spoiled, rich, and very
Entitled.
Hmm.
but you have to really be rich to do high magic. So when she's always hungry, you don't really like clock it, but she probably hasn't been eating that much because they're having to pay for
The fancy academy, aren't they?
Mhm.
So her family are stretched really, really thin. And there's something else that she's been doing that we discover. How has she been using her high magic?
Her clothes are not as nice underneath.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Cinderella effect where actually she's got a glamour on top that's making her rags look like a really fancy dress. So she appears snooty, but actually she's struggling as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And she also, I think, comes to understand that there's value in meadow magic as well,
Hmm.
that there are things that anyone can do that she cannot.
She actually, I think at the end, she does call her a meadow witch, not a ditch witch.
And I think they both kind of assume that someone has it better or easier. Like, she's assuming Anwen has an easier life than her and vice versa, but both of them are struggling just in different ways. And they come to accord and they actually start to like each other at the end.
Yeah, they become real friends by the end of the book.
Yeah.
And it feels earned. Sometimes those journeys in books feel very like this is the beat that you're expected to have. But here, I think they do genuinely understand each other better. The other thing that I think changes is Anwin's feeling towards what her own background is.
Mhm.
So Anwin is jealous of Keris throughout the book because she thinks that high magic is kind of better than the meadow magic that she's doing. But I think she realizes in the course of this story that actually meadow magic is really cool. There are so many things you can do with it. Then she can be really helpful and useful to people. So I think her attitude towards what she does changes.
She can sees that she can be helpful to her community.
Yeah.
There's an assumption that, glamorous magic is the only magic of value, but she's helping people and making their lives better.
Yeah.
While meadow magic is like the foundation of a house, and it isn't always the prettiest,
Hmm.
but you kind of need both to make a house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's value to both, and I think they see it by the end of the story,
Yeah.
and that they see the value in each other, which I think is nice.
Yep.
So this has been Get a Clue Dad, a Tweens Mysteries podcast.
And we thank you for joining us today.
And thank you guys for letting me join in.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We look forward to having you back for one of our other fairy tale mystery discussions.
Peace out, guys, and remember, comment if you like pigeons.
So that was Get a Clue Dad, a Mysteries Ahoy podcast. Today we were discussing The Beanstalk Murder by P.G. Bell.